Welcome back to the Trending Communicator. I'm your host, Dan Nessel. 5 years ago, and I can't believe it's been that long, I had a conversation that changed how I think about my own brain. With this particular guest, we talked about Navy SEALs learning Arabic, something called default network, and why everything I'd been told about cognitive decline was, to use my guest's word, rubbish. His argument is that the aging brain story is exactly backwards. Different cognitive abilities peak at different ages. Strategic attention in your late 50s, innovative cognition in your early 60s, integrative reasoning, and some of you folks might say integrative, at around 62. Look, and I was skeptical. But then AI showed up and commoditized the very skills younger workers supposedly excel at. Speed, information processing, rapid adaptation. I mean, what's left? Human judgment. The thing the aging brain actually does best. Well, my guest today, he spent 5 years building on this. The Executive Brain Playbook, an AI-powered platform called Thrive. Faculty roles at IMD and Korn Ferry, clients from BNP Paribas to Infineon. I'll tell you, in his Substack, which you all must read, Thrive After 45, he has been writing about this, his recent piece about Janus, the two-faced Roman god of thresholds, one face backward, one face forward. The Romans carved him above every doorway because they understood you can't cross a threshold looking in only one direction. See, that's the midlife transition most of us get wrong. We either cling to what worked before or chase reinvention that ignores everything we've built. Meanwhile, AI keeps reshaping what organizations actually need from experienced professionals. The playbook has changed. The question is whether we're ready to cross. Making his return to the Trending Communicator, or I should say, his first time on the Trending Communicator, but his return to the hot seat in front of Dan Nessel, because he was here in the early days of the Dan Nessel Show, the founder and CEO of Extend My Runway, Dr. Michael Netzley. Michael.
Good evening, Dan, or good
How
morning
are ya?
from Singapore and from the man cave here, and doing great. I am honored to be back.
It is an honor to have you back, especially because last time we were on, and this was really an interesting, cool opportunity for me to take a little walk down memory lane, because 5 years ago, your episode 20 or something, way back before I got my podcasting feet, really, and I was just sort of playing around, figuring out what's what. And I somehow made this Singapore connection, who made another Singapore connection for me. And before I knew it, Michael Netzley in front of me to talk about neuroscience. And I was like, oh, neuroscience, the greatest thing. I didn't know anything about neuroscience. And in the middle of the, I think 15 minutes into the episode, I was like, neuroscience. Yeah, let's get into it. It's like, oh, here we go. And and I was but it was a great learning experience for me. And Michael's so gracious, understanding that I didn't know the first thing about, what I was asking about at the time. But I was young then, only in my very late 40s. And, understanding the way that Michael has framed, the way that you framed the way we age and the way our brain, well, for some people, I mean, it varies. Your mileage may vary on it, but the way your brain evolves and changes and continues to change throughout your life, eye-opener for me. And I'll tell you, in the 5 years that I've known you, and certainly, in the more recent year or two, we've been really, I think, turning up the volume on our LinkedIn relationship more. It's been so rewarding. And, if I just say so myself, we are examples of, why the nonsense of, you're done after 45 or 50 is just nonsense.
That's your starting line. You're not done.
Yeah, that's right. It's the beginning. So tell me what you've been up to these last 5 years, Mike. Let's start there.
Oh gosh. Trying to take care of all the kids is the first answer.
Right.
But it's really since the first recording, I've really doubled down on this idea of how our brain can get better at different cognitive functions. What I like to say is how our brain can peak at business critical forms of thinking after the age of 45.
Yeah.
if you make the investment. It is not automatic.
Mm-hmm.
But what's been really interesting, and where I think the LinkedIn and our connection has ramped up for me, is your admiration for Mark Schaefer. And so I've
Oh,
been
Mark.
digging into Mark's stuff.
Yeah.
And the connection for me was, well, wait a minute, these cognitive abilities, and we'll get to
Mm-hmm.
that can peak after 45, are exactly what AI cannot do. And
Yeah.
so what I've doubled down on also over the last year is the idea that your adult brain is your last unfair advantage in the age of AI. And if you
Mm-hmm.
optimize these midlife strengths by making investments, you can do the things that AI cannot. And in fact, we're already starting to see some evidence of this.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at hiring patterns, we're seeing college graduates have a lot more difficulty finding those entry-level jobs,
Yep.
which are more easily automated. But a great article out of The Independent a couple of months ago out of the UK talking about how midlife employees are retaining their employment because
Mm-hmm.
they can do the things that AI cannot. So it's been a really interesting journey, if you will, over these past couple of years, the rise of AI and just continuing to connect the dots and the amazing research that even further reinforces this assertion that
Mm-hmm.
we can get better with age.
100%. And let the record show that I was not the first person to mention Mark Schaefer on this show today. It
I
gets,
stole your
I get,
thunder.
no, I get some flack sometimes from some good friends because it's like, you're always talking about Mark. I always talk about Mark because Mark is my friend. He is a presence in my brain, and he's a smart fellow, and I read his stuff and I talk to him. So he's on my mind, and he deserves to be. So anybody got a problem with
100%.
that out there? Sorry, I'm not going to say don't listen to my show. Please continue to listen, but yeah, go listen to Mark and read his stuff, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Uh, what's interesting thing that you brought up though, um, talking about like uh, this employment situation we have, and the way that I think there's of course uncertainty, but everybody's convinced that the game's over and everybody's losing their jobs. I saw something, I think today or yesterday, on Jay Acunzo's feed on LinkedIn, where he said something about he actually just flipped the script, and I'm surprised I haven't seen more people say this, but it's like AI is not taking your job. AI fills some certain middle things that we all do, and there's different steps, and there's this. AI is really good on the execution, but AI is a piece of technology. It is not taking your job. You are giving it your job. You're
Oh,
giving
100%.
yourself away, and that just got me thinking more about. And Jay, of course, is a is another thought leader, speaker. Kind of, he's an incredible public speaker. But another person who's just seeing AI, I think, as this incredible um, enhancer, augmenter of the things that make us human, and the things that those of us of a certain age and mental kind of model, uh, you know, are poised to take advantage of. Um, your work, though, is I think central to this, and also, I should probably mention that Michael's been a communicator his whole life. This is a trending communicator. Some people might say, "Why are you talking to a neuroscience?" I mean, they won't say that,
Yeah.
but Michael has been teaching communications and was a professor of communications. Are you still teaching for communications classes?
Um, Probably mostly reduced to executive presence and
Okay,
influence
yeah.
these days. But the undergraduate writing, speaking,
Mhm.
show my age, radio skills. Those courses are in the history book at this
Right.
point.
Well,
Yeah.
it's all about where I think communicators have a very special role to play in the AI age, and a lot of that is because of the way we think and because of our curiosity and the way that our brains work. But I'd never really put a neuroscientific model against it, and it kind of makes sense just thinking about this. So looking at communicators, Michael, and this job situation we're facing, I realize this is a fairly large question, very open-ended, but what is the advantage that communicators have if there is one
Okay.
in this crazy, AI world we're living in now?
Okay. Let's maybe tackle this in two ways, where AI is injecting itself into our communication, creative careers, thoughtful careers, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And the second one's going to be our understanding of audience. That'll be the second one. Now, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen, but I'll say it twice. Our buddy Mark did a beautiful conversation with Mitch Joel. I think it's called Thinking with Mitch Joel now. It used to be
Yep.
6 Pixels of Separation. I don't know, I've been listening to that since the beginning. We had Mitch here in Singapore. But they were asking about what really is the value or the impact of AI. Now, Mark's argument, and apparently he makes this in the book, is that look at the ways AI is making us dumber. Where Mitch took the opposite point of view and says, well, I feel so much better because I use AI. So we've got this dichotomy here. Well, take that context. There was a magnificent article in Time magazine about 10 days ago, and Stanford professor, his name's Eric something. He had written a couple of books about the machine age and manufacturing age and how it created jobs, and machine age is going to create jobs. He said, look, work has three fundamental aspects: the question at the beginning, the execution in the middle, and the evaluation at the end. AI for communicators is taking the execution. Now, we fret because we've always trained people how to use their voice and speak. We've always trained people how to be good writers or creative writers. We've trained people how to create visuals or how to edit film and tell a narrative. AI can do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So we have to shift our value focus to the front end where we're dealing with the question, or on the back end where we're dealing with the evaluation. And if you're going to try and compete with AI, and you taught me this, Dan, you're going to lose that battle. Off of your nudge, I adopted Claude.
Yes.
I've got about a 4,000 word preference in there about how I want this thing to write. I've created skills MD files in Claude.
Great.
And I then started doing that, using that mini RAG function. So I'm uploading my branding document, uploading my publications. It's brilliant what it puts out. It gets you at least 80% of the way, if not further.
Yeah.
So the real value, what I find doing with my own work these days, and this is still on that first question where the value is created, is I spend a lot of time in judgment. What comes out of this? Okay, that's not going to resonate with my audience, or this is kind of inconsistent with what I say, or I don't like the feel of it.
Yeah.
It feels empty. There's no me voice in it. So I'm doing all of that judgment and adjustment on the end. But I'm also doing massive amounts of work on the front end of all of the research. How do I construct either an initial thesis, or I've got sort of 5 ideas floating around. What am I trying to say? Here are the key sources I want you to use. In Claude, I've actually coded, per your guidance, an ethics test, a relationship test. So it's a communication relationship based.
Oh.
I have a competitor analysis built into it. Have I faded into competitor space, or am I keeping my unique voice? So I'm running all these tests, but I'm doing all the work on the front end and back end.
Yeah.
Now here's the connection. All that work on the front end and back end, front end, innovative thinking and focus, back end, focus, both ends of it, strategic thinking. These are the skills that if you invest and develop, you can get better at in the second half of life. It will never be automatic. The mere fact that you're 55 does not make you better, or 65 or 45. You have to make the investments. But if you do, these shifts in work that we see as communicators, at middle age, we are we have the potential to be brilliantly equipped to do that kind of work and let Claude pump out the words. That's fine. That's fine.
Well, first, of course, I agree with you because you even just said that that I nudged you sort of in this direction. And, some of my approaches really do echo or sort of reflect what you're talking about. And I completely agree. Like, I have an argument with people sometimes. And actually, in fact, there was a viral, almost like for LinkedIn kind of, from by LinkedIn standards, a viral post that my friend Lee Judge put up the other day. And he was talking about AI slop, and his argument was essentially don't blame the tool. You got to, that's what it comes down to. Well, the creative set came out in force. And when I say the creative set, I don't mean like the copywriters and designers who work in commerce and in business. I mean artists. I mean, people who write fiction and screenplays, those people. And it was a new experience. I never saw them on LinkedIn before. I'm assuming that many of them are there, but we're there for business. So, not in the same orbit. Suddenly they're like chiming in. They were so angry. They're so angry at AI and what AI does and how they didn't spare any words or punches in really not only saying terrible things about Lee, but I was in that conversation, and the vitriol was very palpable. And one of the things that I was trying to put out there was that somebody said AI is nothing like learning the guitar. Like learning the guitar was one of the analogies that I think Lee put up there. It's like something about you need to get skilled with your instrument, and they're like AI is nothing like learning a guitar. AI is just you put in crap and you get crap. And I didn't argue with the guitar point. There's artistry involved, but what I said was it's a new thing. There is a difference between prompting AI and prompting AI. And
yes.
Any input you put into the machine, your first run is a prompt. So people think, okay, that's a prompt. That's not a prompt. You're talking about your 4,000 word volumes in your frameworks. That's a prompt. And I have come so far in just like understanding that it is a new form of writing, it is a new form of thinking. And even that itself can get pretty meta with the way that AI can assist you with putting the logic in place. But that prompt could never, like the best and greatest prompt in the world that gets, Dr. Michael Netzley's article written well, could never happen without an abundance of, number one, ideas and frameworks and knowledge from your side. But number two, a shit ton of iteration and work. Yes. So I don't want anybody to tell me that it's lazy. There's no laziness about a prompt that finally works.
100%. 100%.
I think it's a new set, a new skill, or a new thing. I don't know what it is.
Our point of value creation has shifted.
Yeah.
It's not the picking words.
Yeah. And that, just to get you back on track there, that was where AI is injecting itself. Then we were talking about that, and the second point was about the understanding from the audience side. So we want to kind of tie those together for us.
Well, that's a nice connection to what you were saying about people, resisting AI, and I struggle with that. If you're at the hospital and with the help of AI, a doctor diagnoses breast cancer as stage 1 instead of stage 4 because they're working with AI and not making that human error, are you going to be angry at the AI for that? So we're directing it at the wrong way. And we support that anger, that vitriol, by changing our description of the audience. That this is critical to that anti-argument. I remember about a year and a half ago, maybe it's 2 years ago, gentleman used to be with Element. I think his name's David Armano, if I
Oh, yeah,
remember
Dave.
correctly.
He's been on the show.
Yeah.
Good friend.
Okay.
Mhm.
So he was talking about, get over AI. Most of what we produce is milk toast. Let's be honest. AI can produce milk toast faster, cheaper than, maybe even better than you can.
Yeah.
Get over it.
True.
But now
True that.
recently I saw Dave basically flip that position on his head. And he's arguing that AI is going to make you dumber, just like the interview in Mark Schaefer's book. And I sit back and I took my time and I listened to multiple people making these arguments. It's not just Dave and it's not just Mark. There are others making this argument. And I realized in order to justify our unhappiness with what AI is doing, all of a sudden, our audience, instead of your and I audience, instead of producing milk toast, we are now philosopher kings. We are thinking at the highest order. We are one step away from producing Pulitzer Prize winning work. And now we're just suddenly let AI do the writing for us and we're going to become dumber. I'm sorry. I'm serious.
Hysterical.
We have been human beings have been taking shortcuts all their life, every single day, thinking fast and slow. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. You're an authority, I'll believe you. Go into the company. You've got the filing cabinet style book. How have we been doing these quarterly reports for the last 10 years? Let's do it that way for the 11th year. The brain's fundamental mode is to save energy. So if there is a structure or a form and I don't have to think about it, the brain's going to go in that direction.
Yeah.
So people have been taking shortcuts for years. And this is why I just cringe every time I see that MIT study rolled out again.
That's so ridiculous for a lot of reasons, but yeah.
In elementary school, when I copied my neighbor's paper, I didn't remember what I copied. There's nothing new here. There's nothing new here.
Yeah.
So it is, I guess my next blog post, I've got a working title. My next Substack, I've got a working title that AI is probably not going to make you dumber, but the choices you make definitely can.
And that I think is the key, right?
Yeah.
And it goes to your model. It goes to your own teaching, and you say straight out that the developing into a you call it the chairperson's brain, but like
up there around 65, 75,
right? But getting there is by no means guaranteed. I think when we first talked about it, you're talking about being like the master of the chessboard or the lord of the manor. Just like when you're 65, 75, you can just see the whole big picture. And but not everybody. That's not a guarantee. You make choices along the way.
Not a guarantee. Yeah.
And I think in the way that you're tying this to AI now, this idea that's going to make us dumber. Well, so there's a choice, a stark choice. You can sit back and stop doing anything with the time or the kind of space that AI gives you, and then you'll get dumber because you're not filling it, or you're not trying to do it. You're not trying to outpace it. You don't take that as a cue to say, well, AI can do this really well. Well, then how can I make that even better?
Yeah.
There's a lot of I think nuance there, but I think the point is that, all right, so AI can do all these things faster, better, whatever. They can do milquetoast the best. So if you're writing corporate communications or marketing, sometimes that's good enough. All right, then, great. So where do I then take that, where not only can I shape it into something that's more valuable, or I can say, okay, fine, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to do something different. And I see more and more people making that choice. Or maybe it's a bubble, but certainly the survivors of this AI apocalypse that everybody's talking about are going to be those people who are like, all right, fine, I got a new tool, it does this part better, and now let me work on this other part.
Bingo. And this is where I think the marriage of your thinking and Mark's thinking comes together so nicely. It's not the prompting. It's the, as you said, prompting.
Mm-hmm.
But in that process of prompting, you've got to hold curiosity,
Yeah.
hold uncertainty, and allow this to be a generative process.
Yeah.
That is a cognitive endeavor. And so the people who build this and the people who operate the way you guys are talking about, directionally, I think those are going to be the winners. Now, this may evolve and become more refined, but directionally, those are going to be your winners.
See, I sure hope so. Because when I read Mark's book, and he was on the show talking about it, the whole idea of it's a cognitive offload, right? That's the term that
Bingo.
people use. Or not people use, that's the term. And, you know, people talked about cognitive offload with social media. They talked about it with the advent of television. You put your kids in front of the TV, they're going to turn into idiots. It's not a new thing, but AI accelerates it in so many ways.
That's right.
And depending on the age you're at, I think the effect is different. So how does one, I think, I guess it depends. Let's look at people who are in communications at different phases of their career. Where does that cognitive offload become either a danger or an opportunity?
Okay. Wow. That to me, that's a massive question. That's really tough.
I like to haul them out there. I didn't even warn you about that one.
Let's set aside the work experience and career development on the job for a moment, okay? Because that's an issue as well. But what we have to do, okay, let me step back in a completely different direction. The basis of this is something called neuroplasticity. Your brain changes in response to external experiences that you care about. Okay. And what needs to happen starting in that 40 to 45 window? Now, even better if you could start earlier, but there's as researchers at Harvard like to say, rarely do these things show themselves before age 40 to 45. Rarely. So this midlife, you've got to start giving yourself experiences, whether they're work experiences or brain training or health and wellness foundations underpinning it all, that are going to force you to strengthen that muscle for focus. Just like you go to the gym and do curls to strengthen a bicep, you can operate in ways that will strengthen your focus. You can strengthen your ability to strategize. You can strengthen your ability to innovate. You can strengthen your ability to engage in transformational thinking. You can strengthen your ability to get out of binaries and think about alternate or next level up options. We can think about relationships differently. And the reason that I think is so important, whether you're a communicator or in any profession, is because at the start of our career, we are given experiences. We are given work to do. We are given KPIs. And so we churn it out. But at some point when we get promoted, we now have to get work done through people. And that inherently puts us in a position of exercising judgment and giving feedback, which is a different set of neural pathways than what we've developed in order to get there. And this tends to happen, again, late 30s, early 40s, those promotions happen. But we don't take the time to strengthen those cognitive abilities. And so I think as we think about any career, or for this audience, as we think about our PR and internal client side communication roles, whatever it's going to, independent consultant, whatever you are, we have to take the time to build those cognitive abilities, because those are the abilities that you use before the AI and after the AI. And you can do that, but if you build it, you can do it better than the 35-year-old, virtually guaranteed.
The beginning and the end you're talking about of that process, right?
Yeah, that three-step process I laid out from the Time magazine. Yeah.
It's interesting. I'm trying to think of how I either exercised my brain or killed it in different ways. Through my life, there's different things that we do that are good things to do and not good things to do. And I wonder, like, it's not, I don't want to venture down the pathway of intelligence because I don't think that that's fair.
Agreed. That's not the path. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think that curiosity
Yes.
and dare I say critical thinking, and probably one comes from the other. I think they're connected, which is completely irrelevant to cognitive ability, right? It's or capable or aptitude. It's really about your natural way of looking at the world around you. And Mark has said that he believes it can be taught, that curiosity can be taught.
100%.
And I think certainly at an early stage it can be taught. But do you think we can help those who are already in their like mid careers or who've been on a journey of all I want to do is this thing and this is the only thing I want to do every day and I want to go home and get my dinner and that's it? Like, can we nudge them into a curious mindset?
100%. Research from the Center for Brain Health, University of Texas, Dallas. The skill that has the most ability to be developed, the cognitive skill with the greatest ability to grow, is the innovative and creative thinking category. And interestingly, in their research, it happens at any age.
You hear that? Any age. I like that.
Any age. So that if creative and innovative thinking is what you're worried about, how, and I would say transformational thinking has to be, if not before that, immediately after it. But those two have to be at the top. At 100%, you can develop those. You can get better. And I would argue that if you take these ideas that are getting better and you plug them into AI, they will get even better still.
And yeah, and you absorb what AI tells you though. Like it's
you start iterating it.
Yeah. I mean, the cognitive cognitive offload happens when you go to AI and then you just like accept what comes out and you walk away thinking that you've done the job.
Yes.
And you haven't done the job. You've just typed. The thing that I wanted, like, which about curiosity and transformational thinking. Actually, let's talk about that for a second. How would you define transformational thinking? Because that's fascinating to me. I always feel like I'm a curious guy, right? And that's always been the case.
Yes.
But I've never thought of it as a skill until now. Okay, AI really makes that a skill, Okay. But transformational thinking, where do you cross the boundary into that?
So great example. I see a little hint of the you have some of my hair color going on here. So we are a role model for this. We learned our communication skills pre-AI, and I'll admit it, for me, mostly pre-digital. I remember the 286 computers and the old TRS-80 from Radio Shack.
I never worked on those, but I remember them. Right.
So at least I had keyboards in front of me. But most of what I learned, communication, was pre-digital in the sense that we are talking about it. Now, all of a sudden, we find ourselves in an AI world. And part of our concern is that we're going to become irrelevant. But we have all this experience, and we know that there has to, in fact, not that there has to be, we know there is value to that experience. So what transformational thinking does is allow you to take that experience that you have, rejig it, and apply it into today's world. Okay, so it's the process by which you update. And again, Center for Brain Health at University of Texas, Dallas has a brilliant phrase: zoom in, zoom out, zoom wide. Zoom in, you zoom in on that past experience and what you think is of value. Zoom out, you now rephrase it or rejig it for 2026. Zoom wide, you move it over to a new context, apply it, and work through the details of applying that. Transformational thinking is your platinum cognitive function, because if you cannot do that sequence of zoom in, zoom out, zoom wide, you literally become irrelevant.
Scary.
That's your updating mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you just say, look, I learned how to write. I am a writer. I'm going to keep writing, and I'm going to be better than AI. If you were a stock, I wouldn't buy you.
Well, certainly not in the business world, right? The commercial world.
Yeah. Now, if you're if you got two Pulitzers behind your name, maybe I do buy that stock
for sure.
But you see where I'm going with. So you've got to rejig what you learned for before the actual writing or after the actual writing, because that execution's been taken over. That rejigging is transformational thinking. That's your platinum cognitive function.
I build that into the content engines that I create for people, and you know, I haven't thought of it as transformational anything really, but the way I've framed it and the way I continue to frame it is AI gives you the power to suddenly mine all of the ideas and all of the things and all of the assets that you've ever had all at once in one place. You're normally doing it with your brain, and our memories are faulty. And, you know, on one day you'll remember that file that you did, or you'll remember that presentation did 15 years ago, whatever. But if it's all in one place, and you've got now an incredible file system that's able to call up any of your old ideas, right? Well, somebody says, why do I want those old ideas? The reason you want those old ideas is because they give you a perspective on the new ideas.
Bingo.
And you can see the way that you used to think and the way that, you react now. Or you can see, which often happens, that you were right 20 years ago. So then if you use AI to kind of start to surface those ideas again, and then you decide to write about that stuff, well, then you're writing your own stuff. Those are your ideas.
That's right.
AI didn't make that up. That's yours. So people are like, well, but I don't want to pretend. You're not pretending. Don't tell AI to manufacture something about you. If you tell AI, hey, I want to write an essay about the neuroscience of the flamingo, it will, right? If there is even a neuroscience of the flamingo, sorry. But
it'll still write it.
It'll write it, and it'll put your name on it, and you can put your name on there, and you can pretend to be an expert in that sort of ornithological neuroscientific branch. But that is clearly, you know, not you. That is the kind of crap that you would fulfill your own prophecy of cheating with AI. But if it's your own stuff, why are you cheating? It's not cheating.
Not at all.
So, you know, but the transformational part of that is what I hadn't thought, because essentially what you're doing is you're using AI as an aid to help you make those transformational connections. But AI isn't necessarily making them for you.
Yeah, and it's so important today, because not only do we have that cognitive offload by choosing not to do it, the brutal fact is our lives are overwhelmed. We are constantly multitasking. We are always deadlines in front of us. There are always family issues. We always have bad days. We offload quietly without even realizing it. Just because the mental bandwidth is far more limited than most people want to admit. You know, the old model was that you can probably have about 4 to 7 things in your brain, but after that, it's just overload. I would say in today's fast-paced, stressed-out world, 4 is probably about your max.
Wow.
So we get overloaded very, very quickly and automatically default to those easy answers. Well, it's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. If we did it that way last quarter, we'll do it way this quarter. We'll get it next time, which we never do.
Yeah.
So we're already overloading. And so would you mind if I give a message to your listeners on this point?
Please do. That's the point.
All right. Listeners, Dan has put 2 really important posts or ideas out there. One is how to set up your Claude to work in the way we're talking about. But the other one is to use Notebook LM as this background anthropologist, your mining system of your own work. Your brain cannot operate on that level. And if you are not building the kinds of systems that Dan has been talking about today, you are going to be behind very, very quickly. And I mean that from the heart. Your work inspired so much of what I did in December, and I'm already seeing the fruits of it in what I'm creating right now. Brilliant advice, and it's not going to take long for everybody else to catch up here.
First of all, this is definitely a trending communicator first, where somebody's done an advertisement for me. Appreciate that. But I have not paid Michael, and we've only been friends and talked a lot. And I want to be very, very clear.
Yeah.
That I solve problems for myself, and I share them. And I feel like there's a new discovery being made every day, and some of it I should probably keep to myself and bank it. I don't know. But generally speaking, I just think these are important things for us to really cope with if we want to survive as communicators, if we want to survive as writers, as dare I say, I hate the word thought leaders, but let's just use the term that everybody's familiar with, right? If you want to be a thought leader, or if you are a thought leader and want to stay one, you need more. Like, you need to be able to reach into what you've already got. And I appreciate that you read those pieces, and they've had an effect. And it's kind of helped me figure out where I want to go, or where I am going in my own work. But my kind of where I've picked up a lot from you, Michael, is this, and I've never forgotten that conversation we had 5 years ago, where you get better strategically and seeing the big picture from a neuroscientific standpoint. Your neuroplasticity may harden here and there, or you may get less neuroplastic as you grow older. However, the training that you do earlier, or the kind of work that you're doing earlier, it makes itself known in different ways as you get older, and you make different choices along the way to get there or not get there. And just because you drop off the bus at one point doesn't mean you can't get back on it. It's not like
it's never too late.
It's never too late to change, or to find yourself, holy crap, but this is interesting things happening to me. But I've always had that in mind, I should be getting better at this thinking, and trying to take a deeper pause, or a deeper thought, a deeper kind of dive into whatever it is I'm doing at the time. And my big problem or challenge, or kind of, maybe it's a great thing, is I just can't stop the digging. Like, I can't let that scab sit. I gotta keep plucking at it. So by the time I'm like, oh my gosh, I've fixed this issue, which is, like, for example, we're all going to be invisible someday if we don't have something to talk about. Well, but we've been around on this earth for so long, we surely have something to talk about. Let me find out what I've done before, right? And just now, then, fast forward a couple of years, and you have multiple frameworks, voice protocols, ethical guidelines, checklists, all this kind of stuff governing a system. Systems. That's what I was thinking. Creating and thinking in systems rather than in a very simple, straightforward thing. And I find that one thing begets another. Doors are always opening, windows are always opening, whatever kind of metaphor you choose. But you dig into one thing, and then you're like, okay, well, wait a second. That's useful someplace else. I'm going to take that, park that. And then you're like, but wait a second, that's parked. No, I think I want to drive that one. And you change and you go over there. And now there's a little ADHD involved there. I give you that. But the discovery part of this is just mind-boggling to me. And AI is not my savior. It's not a savior, but it certainly makes that happen more, I think. Because you can get to these solutions or at least temporary fixes fast, so you can move on to the next thing. I was just thinking, actually, and it's every time I talk to you, I have to pause and think about this, because you always blow my mind. But this whole idea of this kind of progression we make as we get older. Somebody once said to me, "Yeah, you're just saying that because you're getting old." Well, I want to make. I want to be. Maybe hey, over here, ageism is real. But really, I was thinking about that continuum and getting to that transformative way of thinking, and how you really kind of start to see bigger things. But more than that, how we feel like we're in one channel. We're communicators. We're marketers. We're a label, and we go forward in that way. Maybe because it's the path of least resistance, maybe because we love it. I don't know. But you tend to then, the blinders develop and you're not seeing the other kind of stimuli and input that are out there. Yeah. Well, then, okay, now here we are in a world where you can be anything really you want to be. And you want to go back to when we were kids, and that's what TV used to tell us, that you could be anything you want to be. And we believed it. But now I'm thinking there's something true about that. And here I am at, just shy of 55. I'm not 55 yet, but in my 55th year. And what am I doing? I'm coding. I'm building software applications. Like, now, I've never done this before. I didn't set out to do it. I just had a particular problem. And I came up with a solution that's really communications based. Like executive position. It's related to executive positioning. Like, how do we raise our position in relative to our competitors? How do we communicate that better? What channels do we need to do that? What should our messaging be? And what are the things out there that we need to understand in order to do that? There's a whole profession around this, or a whole branch of communications around this. So it started as a communications problem. Then, you start to dig down. It's like, well, how can you be a really well-positioned person on LinkedIn, for example, if you don't know the first thing about writing a profile? You can't. And, so I start to go down these roads, and what starts as a communications problem, now it becomes, okay, I'm going to write a program. I'm going to write an app, create an app. I'm going to create it. I'm going to do the upfront thinking. I'm going to then work with Claude Code, who's going to do the middle thinking. And then I'm going to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing every step of the way, because I know which questions to ask. I know what the good output looks like. So, a fresh grad cannot do this. And by my relentless, questioning, curiosity, and then at one point, you got to go, you know what? I can't be afraid of these things. I'm just going to jump in. Now I'm telling you, I spend so much of my time on Claude Code. And then I figured, what am I now? What are these labels? So there's a question coming here, and I'm sorry for going so far. But
that's all right. I'm just thinking about how similar we are. So go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, I bet. So now you have all these different skills, all these different things that you're doing, without supervision, without anybody telling you what the job description is, without a KPI to live up to, necessarily. Maybe that comes later. But you're writing it's like you're writing the map as you're driving. You're building the plane as you're flying. I don't know what the right metaphor is. Now, that's not definable in the world of HR, in the world of, job search and employment. But I think that's going to become almost more of the reality for everybody up and down the line. So how do we deal with that? And what is that, what is that kind of, I don't know, what are the skills that we need to develop cognitively to be able to cope with that? And can we?
Okay. Wow. Thank you for the tiny question.
That's such a little question. I knew it was going to get there somewhere. Sorry, buddy.
It's something that I set in the parking lot a minute ago. I'll just very quickly mention and then move into those skills. But you and I come from a generation where we had to earn our chops as juniors and work our way up.
True.
That is going to be harder for the people who are entering the workforce now, and what HR and supervising managers are going to have to get a lot better at is creating that kind of experiential learning in the workplace. And I think that's difficult because people will say, well, at this age, they only stay for 3 or 4 years. Why would I give them all that experience and send it off to the competitor? Well, because their competitors have to do the same thing, and you're going to hire from the competitors, and it's just a self-sustaining system. So you have to do it. So you and I have an advantage there in that deep experience phase. But that kind of leads to the next step, that there are skills, and maybe as a metaphor, we think about biomarkers. Can we, in a direct way, measure this comprehensive portrait of very complex, very high-level thinking that you just described? No, we cannot. But we can look at a series of biomarkers and basically say you're healthy or you're not healthy, or you're capable of thinking at that higher order, you're not capable of thinking at that higher order. And so step number one, and please bear with me here because I cannot tell you how important this is. It begins with brain health. And in a world that is always on, where we sleep poorly, where we eat poorly, high stress, chronic stress, we don't have good brain health.
Yeah.
We don't. So that has to be number one, is the health of the actual processor itself. So getting over 7 hours of sleep at night, getting sufficient exercise every week, getting rid of all that processed food and eating healthy. To that, I would say cut your multitasking in half, if not more, and improving the diversity of your social connections. And so I'll stop there. That is the foundation of the house. You cannot build anything on top of that without that foundation. And modern society is designed to prevent you from having that foundation. So you must become absolutely unrelenting, uncompromising on protecting that foundation. If you can't get that right, the rest of what I'm going to say is pointless.
I'm 2 for 5 in that one.
I'm living this, right? I mean, I live this people laugh at me when I say I start my workday at 9 p.m. Because that's how serious I am about my sleep. I start with sleep. So step number 2 becomes the brain training. All right. So we talked about zoom in, zoom out, zoom wide. This is a pattern you can repeat over and over and over again. Another little thing I do, I have one of those Michael Hyatt full focus planners I use every day. It's got a quote in there. So I come up with 5 to 7 alternate interpretations of that quote every single day that forces my brain to move in different directions. And so I started off with 3, but I realized very quickly I go to the same 3. So I want to push it to 5. Then after a while, I realized my 5 were starting to become common. So I push it to 7. But I'm building those neural connections to move in different ways. Now that, along with zoom in, zoom out, zoom wide, are just examples of the kind of brain training that we can adopt.
Is memorization a good
Memorization you can improve, focus you can improve, stress management you can improve, curiosity you can improve. It's just building the neural pathways and keeping them as healthy as possible so they operate optimally.
I play the 2 brain games that LinkedIn sends me every morning. Does that count?
No.
Damn
Sorry.
it.
As far as I know, there's only one in the world.
Yeah.
There's only one in the world. Actually, I'll give you 2, but there's only one in the world. It's called Brain HQ by Posit Science.
Okay. Brain HQ.
So built by a gentleman who did the neuroplasticity research and results in the 90s, really a forward thinker. So Brain HQ by Posit Science. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention joining the Brain Health Project at the Center for Brain Health, University of Texas at Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
It's still free. You measure your brain health about every 6 months, and then they give you these zero cost online training modules for your brain.
Really?
And they also talk a lot about your work habits. Do you have 5-minute breaks of doing nothing 5 times a day? Little things like that.
I do
That
not.
just we overload our brain, and then we default to the organizational filing cabinet style guide. We default to, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me.
Or burnout.
It's cognitive overload.
Yeah.
So you can't exercise judgment. You can't. So all of these all of the higher order thinking that you described, you cannot perform when your nervous system is in the sympathetic system, where you're stressed out, you're overloaded, the body's zeroing in as a natural protective mechanism. So that broad creative thinking doesn't happen when you're zeroed in.
Asking for a friend here. What about when you have and this is not multitasking. Multitasking, trying to do all these different things at once and failing at them all.
Yeah.
But what if you have a variety of different roles that you play? For example, a variety of different jobs that you do during the day. It could manifest in different projects, or, just different things that tickle your fancy, and you decide to run down those things till you're down a rabbit hole and you're doing it for 17 hours. And that's what my friend tells me, that this happens. But is variety the spice of life? Is it the spice of brain health as well?
Incredibly important. Novelty and variety are essential to brain health. This will sound like a contradiction. Your brain thrives on 2 things, stability and predictability, and variety and novelty. It thrives on both, but in different ways. And so you've got to have both. And as a guy who has a portfolio career at this point in my life, I also have that variety in my day. And the best advice I can share is going back to that full focus planner. There are 3 priorities every day and then a whole bunch of little tasks. I monotask the 3 priorities every day. And then if I have to have, email and chat open while I'm doing the little tasks, that's okay.
Okay.
All right. But you monotask the priority so that your brain can allocate the bandwidth that is needed to perform at the level we need to perform at.
Sometimes my brain tells me just hyper focuses anyway, so there are there's a neurodiversity thing happening around the world, as we know, and I would venture to say, because I haven't asked you about this, Michael, but I venture to say that a lot of what you're speaking of is predicated on the kind of the norm or the mean of brain behavior and brain activity. Is
Fair
that right?
statement, 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So depending on where you are in different on the neurodiversity spectrum, you might be lean towards certain activities over others, right? I mean, the sleep and food and exercise, that's a given for, I think, everybody, right? But for example, for me, I am, I know that the dopamine hits are coming whenever I hear about something new, right? It's the novelty is extremely important. And it's one of the reasons I do the show every time I talk to somebody, but I've been continuous with the show. Like, it's a continuous thing that first of all, it's important. It's important to me before it's important to anybody else. But it turns out that, a lot of folks out there seem to appreciate it. And, I hope and I want to be making, some kind of contribution to our profession and to who we are. And by the way, what you said earlier about my articles kind of setting you off in a direction, that's the kind of contribution I live for, that I think we all do. So thank you for that. But the point is, right, that I do that. And then I have, certain, jobs to do depending on clients, right? But then I'll find myself like I have, and I mentioned Claude Code earlier, right? I have in 53 and something years, 54 years, I wrote one, or I used one script one time for an Excel sheet. Now I've spent the last 6 days, 16 hours a day building something. And I have never had so much fun, nor have I been as frustrated sometimes. But I'm like, as I'm doing it, I'm also digging in and just trying to figure out why these things are happening. And then I'm yelling at it like I do with Claude all the time. But I know that this has to end, because I know that at some point, I don't want to be running beta tests. Run the same thing over and over again. Nobody wants to do that. It hasn't yet, but it will happen. So I'm preparing myself for, okay, what's next? But that's the thing is, though, that I've spent days on pretty much only that. And I don't think that's the healthiest thing from a cognitive, or from building my cognitive capabilities, or setting myself up for a future as a chairperson thinker. What was it again? It's chairperson.
The chairperson's brain. Yeah.
Chairperson's brain. Thank you. Yeah. But then again, like I've had so much fun with it, and I feel like I've learned so much in such a short amount of time. I wouldn't trade it.
Can I challenge this? Can
Please.
I challenge you here?
Yeah.
I think you're being overly apologetic, and you're not saying the silver lining here. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I've got a family member with a very particular kind of personality that I've always struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
So I went into, this was my last project in GPT before I switched to Claude. I built a coach in ChatGPT so that I could run simulations and learn how to deal better with this family member.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that has been brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I argue with it because I go, no, I don't think your read of human beings is correct here. So I don't just accept it in the
Right.
sense that we've been criticizing. But my point is this. Once I went through that process, you know what I did? I wrote a book. I wrote a book. I've got a book sitting on this computer. It may never see the light of day, but I wrote a book about dealing with a very particular personality type and the changes that I need to make in order to deal with that individual. But
Yeah.
I'm probably one good editor away from publishing this thing if I wanted to. Now, I didn't write for that reason, but that's what I did. Now, here's the point. At our age, is somebody going to hire me as a senior academic to come in and lead a department?
Oh, right. Yeah.
They're going to be like, no, we don't want you. We want to, we're younger. We want to build our trajectory forward. Okay. And probably the same thing with you. You're getting at a point. And I think about my coachees. I've got retired CEOs. Nobody wants that CEO walking into their business acting like the CEO.
Right.
We have to carry ourselves differently. We have to display something differently. So the fact that you can set your ego aside and share and mentor, the fact that you've got the curiosity to build something new that you've never done before, or in my case, to write a book that I've never done before, and that you're still vibrant and learning, enthusiastic, and bringing positive energy into that organizational setting. Now you can come in advisory or developmental roles, senior advisor, senior mentor. It's a different capacity.
Yeah.
But what I'm seeing in my coaching is that organizations and leaders are really open to that when you show up as that learning, helping, supportive person, rather than showing up as the senior academic, showing up as a CEO or whatever.
Right.
So we've got this change in identity that has to happen, which corresponds with the cognitive changes. And I think is what you're doing is the artifacts that when people see this, we go, Dan's the kind of guy we would love to have around here. He's going to be contagious in a good way. We want this.
somebody was asking me the other day about, you ever think about going back into corporate life? And it's like, look, I'll be clear. I was ready to leave corporate life when I did. I wanted to. I felt that AI was there for that. My understanding of AI would help me to build my own practice in something. I didn't know exactly, like, it's taken me a while to define what those things are, and I'm still pivoting here and there. But if immediately after I left corporate, which was, I got laid off, and that's fine. But it wasn't like I made a plan to leave corporate on a certain day, right? So would I ever go back? I will never say no. Like, I'll never, like, that's a silly question to me. What's the circumstance? What's the offer? What's the job, right? So, but would you want to be a CCO? No, I don't want to be a CCO. I don't want to be a role, right? I don't want to be a boxed in person. An advisor at a VC or a startup. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Or just a portfolio of six
startups.
Now you've got a complete career right there.
All of that, like all of those things, wonderful. Why not, right? I mean, if somebody feels that my knowledge is valuable for them, then by all means, I will want to help you. But I don't think I need to fit into a box anymore, Yeah. And as David Armano said on our episode, we're weird unicorns, I think, at this point. And you certainly are. I mean, we tend to grab
weird.
Well, you're a weird unicorn. Join the club. Like we just have I like the way you describe it as a portfolio career, but it's like I want to be in the position where I can pick and choose what I do, and I sort of do now. But I'm far from, like, candidly, like, I have a ways to go before I'm just like ready to like say I am captain of, or I'm the admiral of my fleet, right? I'm captain of my ship, but I want to be admiral of the fleet. Like, I want to make sure that I'm kind of okay. I mean, sometimes it works, the cognitive stuff. But I tell you, man, there's a lot of stuff we didn't touch on, we didn't get to. I wanted to hear about, and I think that maybe we'll put a link to the Executive Brain Playbook. And I know they probably covered a couple of concepts, but your Executive Brain Playbook, where can people find that? Is it on your site, or?
Yeah, so I'll give you two real quick links. So the website is extendmyrunway.com.
Yep.
And in there you'll find everything, including that core article that I shared with you, titled "Thriving After 45," which is on I by IMD magazine.
Yep. And I'll put the links in the show notes.
Yeah, but in the media section of my website, that article shows up there as well. But that's the easiest way to find this and read about it. And of course, you and I are on LinkedIn all the time.
Oh, this is great. So listen, everybody out there. I mean, look, Michael is a communicator. I think living, breathing evidence that communicators are more than. And we have so much to contribute in this age of AI. I think we're only just starting to scratch the surface.
Yeah.
And I know big things are coming for so many of us. And so many are clearly suffering because of they're losing their jobs indirectly. It's not AI stole their jobs. It's that corporations have made decisions based on where they think AI is going. And they've gotten rid of their jobs. Yeah. I've said this before. I think that this year, like right now, as we record this, we're in January of 2026. So this is the first recording of the year, by the way, Michael, but for me, but maybe by the time this airs in a couple months, I mean, is this going to be the year of the oops, where companies and boards and, executive teams are going to be like, we let all these people go. We lost all that knowledge, and the AI is giving us crap because we don't know what to talk about with it. We don't know what quality is anymore. Oops. Should we hire them back? Is that going to happen? I don't know. I
don't know if it's going to be that simple. It's just going to be incredibly dynamic. And go back to my rural upbringing in middle America. Don't put all your eggs in one basket because we don't know exactly how this is going to play out.
Yep.
Get those side gigs going because we just don't know.
Clearly. Well, look, everybody, I hope that, first of all, I'm sure that you got so much out of listening to Michael today. You can find him at extendmyrunway.com. Look for him on LinkedIn. He is also on Substack, Thrive After 45, and the 45 is numerical, so Thrive After 45 at substack.com. Fantastic Substack. And also, clearly, Michael has good things to say about me, so he can come back on the show anytime.
See you again soon.
I really am. I appreciate it, Michael. Happy New Year to you. I know that, again, by the time people hear this, it'll be a couple months in. But man, every time I talk to you, I feel like this is ending too soon, but it's got to end.
Well,
so
same thing. Keep putting those great ideas in Substack, and I will be your guinea pig and test them. So.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Thanks so much. Thanks, Michael.
All right. Thank you. Been a pleasure.